Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Well, good morning for me. Good morning for you. If you're watching this in the morning, if you're not, then whatever time of day, good, whatever it is for you. I am very excited this morning. I'm going to blindside my co-host with a topic, and that's the greatest episodes ever usually come out of blindsiding one or both of us. That'd be an interesting one, blindsiding both of us. But anyway, so let me just go ahead and introduce. And you know what? I haven't actually sat down and come up with a beautiful intro for you this morning. So hi, Tamara. How are you this morning?
Hi, John. I'm great. I'm reflecting on that blindsiding both of us thing where we have like listeners just suggest topics, and when we're on the Zoom, we just pull one out of a hat, and
that would be awesome. That'd be so much fun to do.
I think that would be fun.
That would be fun. So
go ahead, do that.
We'll have to figure out the logistics of that. You know, how to do that. So this topic that I have, it oddly enough has come out of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. Yesterday he basically won his case, right? And what I find really interesting about that was a couple of things. One, for 6 years, he was a pariah, right? And then during this case, it really showed that she wasn't that nice of a person either, right? But one of the things that came out of this that really hit me was the idea of broad generalities. You know, people will judge a person for their religion, will judge a person for their race, will judge a person for their sexual orientation, will judge a person for their just their gender, you know. And when people get into broad generalities, they tend to be creating division. Well, when you look at division in general, for me personally, it's antithetical to God, because if we're truly one with God and we're truly living our oneness experience, then all people are equal. Man, woman, child, race, you know, whatever race, doesn't matter. Everybody has an equal share in God. And when I hear people broadly generalize a whole group of people, or you know, to give you an example, I had my last wife. Her and her friends had a true belief that all men were stupid. And so all men got treated like second-class citizens around her and her friends. And I was like, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I went to college and she didn't. I have done more amazing things in my life that she didn't do, but I treat her as an equal and she doesn't treat me as an equal, right? But it was the broad generality that creates a separation. So my question and this topic that I want to dive into is with the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing, and the Me Too movement. You know, in the Me Too movement was like believe all women, but this case kind of shows that men should be listened to as well, equally. What's your thoughts on all that?
Oh, well.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It is. And I didn't follow this closely. I don't follow Hollywood closely. I don't watch all the things, and I don't read the gossip magazines.
I was fascinated by it.
I mean, I saw it and I knew of it. I heard about it on the radio, and every time I opened up Facebook, there was a reel. And I have loved Johnny Depp since I was a little kid, so I followed some of it. But I don't know that he was a pariah, so I'm not making that generalization. I
Right.
don't know, I don't know his personal life. And so I think when it comes to, of course, now we all know a little bit about it, but when it comes to generalizing individuals on snapshots of their behavior, I would pause.
Right.
We're
Right.
doing that, right? We see these public people and we assume who they are based on that public capturing of public behaviors,
Mhm.
but we don't know who they are. I
Right.
mean, if I were to be judged on my very worst moment out in the world, probably in a roundabout somewhere, people might think I'm a terrible person, right?
I can't imagine.
So there's at least one person in the world who thinks I'm a terrible person,
I'm sure. I
right?
think you're spectacular.
Well, I know that. It's my ex-husband, right? He thinks I'm a terrible person. And so but his generalization of who I am is based on his own pain and hurt, right?
Right.
And so
right.
I would say that too with your ex-wife, like her generalization and her friend's generalization that all men are stupid is based on a painful experience or multiple painful experiences.
Right.
And so I think what we need to be really careful about is accepting other people's broad generalizations of people and individuals.
Accepting it in what way?
Saying like, oh, you're right, ex-wife of John, all men are stupid. I believe you because I like you, I respect you, right? So I'm going to believe you. Or, oh, you've just said, John, as we started this, Johnny Depp was a pariah for 6 years. I rejected that immediately, right? I don't know that he was.
Right.
So,
right.
but because I love and respect you, I could have said, oh, he was? Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, he was losing gigs and everything else because for 6 years ago, she said that he was a wife beater, and then
right
had the case in UK, right? So
yeah, and then he lost work. And if you look at like another actor that I love, Robert Downey Jr., years ago, he made a mess of his life. He went to jail, right? And then he's kind of come back and redeemed himself. So I think spiritually, we have to really look at individuals as individuals and individual moments in their lives as individual moments in their lives, just like we would want that for ourselves. Like,
right.
when you were 20, were you as wise as you are now?
Oh, hell no.
Right?
I'm not as wise. I'm not as wise as I will be tomorrow either.
Right. I mean, we all make mistakes. We're all jerks sometimes. And I wouldn't want people to decide who I am based on a snapshot of my life.
Okay, so that's judging an individual, right?
Mm.
What about like believe all women? Is that a broad generalization? Because in this case, the evidence all said that she was beating him.
Yeah.
They have her on tape saying, I was hitting you. I was, and all of the evidence shows that she was the abuser. So, but she, and actually they have her on tapes talking about how no one's going to believe him in court and all this stuff. And it was her saying it, and what I find really interesting about that was that everyone was chiming in that she should be believed and he shouldn't because he was a man.
Yeah. This is that whole one bad apple eats the bunch, right?
Right.
Because if there are 100 of us who are genuinely hurt and one person fakes it, then there's doubt cast on everyone.
Right.
So how do you know? Who do you believe? I think by default, when a woman claims to have been attacked, we believe her until evidence proves otherwise, because it's so exponentially harmful if we don't believe.
Well, I think you should not take her claims as instantly believing it is true. I think you say, oh, here's an issue. We should find out what the facts are. Because I think if you instantly believe this is true, in this case, they instantly believed her true, but when the psychiatrist actually talked about her, they identified her as having, well, one of them identified her as having like personality disorders and everything else.
For sure.
And so you can't necessarily believe everybody is true. You have to actually look at the facts. And
yeah, but you got to also consider there's been so many, and probably most women and children who have been disbelieved that there has been abuse. So the abuse has continued, or the abuse was, compounded by their own self-abuse because people don't believe them. So maybe they're crazy. I mean, I went through this myself, right? With an emotionally abusive ex. In that relationship, it was like when I decided to leave, people didn't believe me. My own sister was like, oh no, you're fine, because I hadn't talked about it because it's so shameful, right? Because people aren't believed.
Right.
So, and there's shame
so
in that.
I would say believe everybody until you have, and then look into the facts. See, you see something harmful, believe everybody, right?
Yeah, that's what I believe. Like believe everybody. And then if you find, like we did with this Amber Heard thing, that actually she's not so cool.
Right. Well, and no, let me pull out of the Amber Heard and the Johnny Depp thing, because that can I think it can kind of muddy the whole thing. I am a white male, right? And
you are?
In history, white males have done some pretty horrible things, right? When I go into the corner store here, and there's a new cashier, it's a black man, right? I can feel his tension when I walk in the door. I can feel his protection, his security go up, right? And then I walk over to him and I say, hey, how are you today? Everything okay? And I give him that love and respect as an equal person. Next thing you know, he and I are having great conversations. We're talking, we're open, right?
Yeah.
But that broad generalization of a white man can't be broken until the white man does something kind.
Right. I love that example so much, because with a different experience as a white woman, walking into that same store and seeing that black clerk, my programming from childhood would immediately put me on alert. And I have to consciously go, what? No, that was programming you received, but that is not what you believe. Right. And so then I have to like consciously relax and go, no, I'm totally safe. Hopefully I'm totally safe, right? Not from the clerk, but from anybody else in the environment. But so there's a very different experience for all of us. And that's why I think the generalization of any kind is so dangerous when it comes to race or men or women, right? It's a dangerous thing to generalize that every person is a certain way. Every person looks the same way.
Well, let me give you another example. So I truly am someone who believes that all people are completely equal, all people, right? And I kept watching, and I also believe in what you focus on, you create. And they asked Mother Teresa to go to an anti-war rally. She said, no, have a peace rally and I'll come.
Yeah.
Right. When I started seeing, LGBTQ, LGBT, blah, 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 and they started adding more and more letters on. I said, why don't we just say H? We're all human. And I got
so much backlash, I bet, because you're a white man with power saying that. And you've had experiences, but you haven't had the experience of some identity that has been smashed down and hated simply because they love somebody different.
I love that you said it that way. But focusing on smashed down and hated is focusing on the negative. Nothing changes unless we start focusing on.
But how do you focus on that positive thing without discounting the experience that people
you can say this happened, but you also don't have to go. So people often when I talk to people, I say it's not your job to save the world. It's your job to make your part of it so bright that people take notice.
I love that.
Okay. So be love, be caring. I have friends who are who are Muslims and lesbians and gay men and black men and black women. I have friends of all beliefs that I can imagine, right? And we love each other. We just love each other, right? I have a brother named Shannon, and I call her a brother, but she's a lesbian who is she identifies as a male, right? So it's like, I don't care. We just laugh and joke and have fun with each other, right? I don't judge her, right? But when I look at the people looking at the struggle that their broadly generalized group has gone through, and focusing on that, it's remember James Brown. He said, this is an interesting quote. He says, when did we go from black and proud to niggas, hoes, and bitches? Right. And pride, joy in yourself, right, is a much different thing than knocking yourself down and putting yourself into another space. And I look at the broad generalization of the LGBTQ community, and I go, the people that I know are loving and caring. The people that I know have better relationships than most of the straight people I know.
Oh, heck yeah. But I think that the point for that movement, as it is Pride Month, this is a great topic, in fact, is that they want the generalizations to change. And in order to do that, you have to bring light to those people. And I'll just be a little controversial myself here with you.
Go, baby, go.
So Shannon, now I'm confused who Shannon is, because you've identified them as a lesbian, but said that they identify as male.
She is the male personality. She knows she's a woman.
What does she consider herself? So what are her pronouns? So, and this is where we respect.
She doesn't use them.
Okay, cool.
She's just Shannon.
So then is that person identifying as male or female? What's their gender?
Why does it matter?
It matters to them because we all want to be seen and heard, right? We all want to be valid in who we are in this world. And we want to be seen as valid by the people that matter to us. And even, weirdly enough, people who don't matter to us, right? So it's about seeing who you are and seeing you for who you identify as. And I think that is super important.
Let me take what you just said.
Right. Process.
And bring it down. Looking for validity is looking for love and looking for respect, right? What you just said was they're trying to be their authentic self.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Why does gender matter?
Because it matters to them.
It matters to them. And I can love
it matters to me. Like if you misgender me as a male, I'm going to be like, excuse me, I am ultra feminine and I love it. Right? Because I love that aspect of me. I love my femininity.
And it's okay to do that. But do you judge me for being a man?
I just judge that you're a man.
Right.
Both because I see it and because that's how you identify. And I think it's important.
I don't think it's wrong how anybody identifies with anything. I don't think it's wrong that they identify. What I find is when they broadly generalize and judge an entire group of people by their gender, by their race, by their sexuality, I don't have an issue with any sexuality, any identity. I don't have any issues with that at all. What I have is when I walk into a room and like, oh, a man's here.
I agree with that. And I think I'm like honing in on the sentiment you're experiencing, because when people who identify in that LGBTQ plus, then are like, oh, white, cis male, straight, blah, blah, blah. They're doing the same thing that they don't want done to them.
Right.
And so ultimately, as it always does in our conversations, it comes back to love as
comes back
the
to
essence of love. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I don't think broad generalizations are loving.
No, unless they're loving.
Right. All men are, I love all men. All women,
it's like the broad generalization is that We are
Right.
all we are all human. And if, I just did a post on my Facebook personal profile yesterday in real time, and probably a week or two ago in podcast release time. Love is just love. And if we just lead with love, if we make the assumption of love in every action and every word and every deed, and we simply assume a generosity of love from others, oh, they're acting in love too, then gosh, it would be a Disney World, right? It would be so beautiful if we could all come from that place of love and understanding and acceptance of
and the thing is, we can broadly agree that people can evolve.
Mhm.
I mean, my father was a racist. I mean, I heard the N word regularly in my life, and I was well on the way to becoming not only a huge racist, but a homophobic in a big way.
Well, I don't know about you, but being raised Catholic, it was like homosexuality was the biggest sin. And yeah.
Right. And working, my father was a blue collar plumber. And so we have the church and the blue collar element. And so it came around to, he had this tough persona, right?
Mhm.
And I was going right down that road. So people can evolve,
Yes.
but the problem that I find is with the broad generalizations is that it's so harmful in society. And to bring it back to, the idea that for 6 years, Johnny Depp has been fighting for his truth. And what I found really interesting yesterday was I saw an interview with a lady who he tried to hire as his lawyer, but she couldn't because she had another case at the right time. But she was so moved by what he said to her that she became a unpaid consultant on the case. And they asked, well, what did he say? He said, well, he saw something about a case that I had done, and in the interview it said, only hire her if you are completely not guilty, because she will investigate you and find out if you are guilty or not before she takes the case.
Mhm.
And Johnny Depp reached out to her directly and said, I want you to take my case, right? And to her, that was like huge that they would come that way.
Mhm.
And to me, it was interesting because for 6 years he lost the Fantastic Beasts. And right now, Pirate 6, which should there be a Pirate 6? In reality, should there be? But Pirate 6, Jerry Bruckheimer said there's 2 scripts right now.
Mhm.
There's one with Johnny Depp and one with Margot Robbie. And it's like, it was all dependent on where this case went. And
He
for
says
6
he's not
years,
doing it.
yeah, for 6 years, he didn't book any more gigs. He started playing his music more because he couldn't get any other acting gigs. This is a guy who was, the best known actor. Now, on the flip side of all this, Kevin Spacey is going back to England to fight for his cause.
Oh.
Right. Right.
There's some pretty clear evidence that he lost.
There's some pretty clear evidence there.
I mean,
following the facts, right?
Good luck, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, they're following the facts, right? So
that's a whole other conversation too.
Well,
and one that
before you go there, let me just say that. So you got Johnny, who was just proven that he was abused, and then you have Kevin Spacey, who right now the evidence is showing that he was an abuser, and they're both white males, right? They're both prominent actors with awards and all kinds of things. They're side by side. One of them is being proven as innocent, and one of them is being shown right now. We don't know the outcome of the court cases, but it's shown right now that he's probably guilty. But we don't know, right? But it kind of proves my point that in all groups there's buttheads.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why generalization is a bad thing. There's going to be a butthead.
Right.
Use your word. In every single group, even a group of nuns, there's probably a butthead.
Nun. Oh my God.
Right.
I ever tell you the story about the nun who knew my mother and didn't like my mother, and I was in a fast food place, and I was sitting at a table with a bunch of landscapers because I was working as a landscaper at the time, and the company that I worked for was run by a bodybuilder, and all the other employees at the table were like bodybuilders. Now here's my pudgy butt sitting there at a table full of Adonis-like creatures, right? And I see on the far side of the room the nun from our church, the head nun. And I know she doesn't like my mom. And that nun got up from that table and took the long way around the dining room to walk by our table. Now, I'm wearing a shirt that says T's Fitness Center because the one guy sitting there, two chairs down from me, owned T's Fitness Center. And he gave me a shirt. And I'm wearing this shirt that says T's Fitness Center. The nun walked up to my table and literally stopped and said, "I don't believe you go to a gym."
Oh my God, what a mean woman.
Right. These guys, of course, thought it was hysterical, right? My pudgy butt, right? But that, even in nuns, that's why, there's butt heads in every element,
Yes.
in every group.
Yeah. Yes, there are, and usually butt heads are born from pain, right?
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And we have to accept that. Even I saw a lawyer this morning talking about Amber Heard and he says, "I feel for her. I hope she gets her life in order." He says, "I hope she goes and looks into what the psychiatrist is saying about her, because she's gonna suffer the rest of her life with this if she doesn't let it go."
And personality disorders are tricky because if they aren't willing to accept that they have one, because they can't see it. I
Right.
mean, that's the disorder itself, right? They cannot see that they have one. And unless they can believe that there is something that actually requires treatment, they won't get the help that they need to function as a normal, I put little air quotes if you're listening and not watching, normal behaviors and personalities.
So if I back up and I look at this whole topic from 1,000 feet and look down on the whole thing and see the bigger picture, I truly believe that we are one with God. And I truly believe that all parts of God are equal. And I truly believe that when I look at everybody I walk and meet in life, that they are a part of that divine source, no matter where they are in that butthead chart, right? Right. And I think that you have to love them, not fight them.
Yeah,
And,
I totally agree.
Yeah, and it comes down to you have to love them first. Years ago, I had one of the greatest compliments I ever got from a fellow stage performer. He says, "John," he says, I watch these other stage acts. He says, and they come on stage in 10, 15 minutes. They go out there and they warm up their act before they start their show, so they can get them, get the audience to like them. He says, "John, you walk on stage and people love you. Why is that?" And I said, "It's because I love them first."
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love them first. I walk on stage knowing that I'm going to bring them a great show. We're going to have a great time together. It's going to be beautiful. And they just love me, right? But that's, everybody can do that. Everybody can have that experience. I often talk about the idea of going to the grocery store and before I go in, just filling my body up with love and walking in, right? and people smile and they laugh and they talk to me, and I have this beautiful experience in the grocery store. Now, I'm having a beautiful experience in the grocery store with my fellow humans, not my fellow, not that Black lady and not that Asian person and not that gay person and not that, I don't see them that way. I see them as my fellow human, all my fellow parts of God. That's what namaste means. I recognize the divinity within you.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to stop looking at the outer image, which is an illusion anyway. And and start looking into everybody's divine. Everybody's divine. And sometimes they lose sight of that and they get messed up. And I know that I know there's something I said in this episode I'm going to hear guff about, as my father would say, right? Or my mother would say. Actually.
Well, unless people remember to look first at the divinity within themselves and you.
Right.
And
exactly.
I think that's ultimately what we've come around to. Look, we can have disagreements. I mean, clearly there are some things that you and I disagree on, but this conversation has been loving and respectful. And if everybody chose to fill themselves with love before any interaction, be it through their fingertips typing into some social media nonsense, or going into the grocery store, or driving down the road. This is where I have to fill myself with divinity. Then there would be so much more love presence in the world, and we would see it, and that would be our judgment. Oh, you are one of God.
Right. Right.
You're like me. You're one of God. You're divine.
I love it. And you talk about the road rage stuff.
Yeah.
People cut you off. They do all this stuff on the road. And years ago, I realized that rather than getting mad, which is just dumb because I'm only hurting myself,
Mhm.
is I have to feel bad for they feel so rushed and frantic they have to do that.
Oh, I don't feel bad for them, but I do like to be grateful that they're slowing me down and keeping me safe.
Right.
I like to imagine they have a brand new puppy or a fish tank in their car. So they have to be extra careful.
I just go,
I like to switch that to gratitude because, people are just I'm making a broad generalization. There are a lot of terrible drivers out there.
No, that is not a broad generalization. There are a lot of terrible drivers out there, right? There are a lot of terrible drivers out there.
But I get to choose, right? And we each individually get to choose how we react or respond to the other people on the road. And you feel bad for them, and I feel grateful for them for slowing me down and keeping me safe, right? Or for an opportunity to practice patience, depending on my mood and where I'm trying to get to and how fast I'm trying to get there.
Right.
So really, back to the source is where we need to go. Back to the source of who we are and where we come from, and we all come from the same slice of bread, my friends.
Yeah.
So
same
we were
loaf.
thinking about talking about dinner. I thought I'd work it in there.
Hey, I just said the word loaf, and that's not a good word either. According to Cheech and Chong, anyway. I'm gonna go pinch a loaf, man.
Oh no.
Anyway, different conversation entirely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's spirituality in that too. That's what we should talk about. Earth's medicine is a topic one of these times.
Pinching a loaf. You know what pinching a loaf means?
I was thinking you're talking about Cheech and Chong, so I'm assuming it's pot smoking, but maybe
no.
Oh, we're not having that conversation.
It means taking a number 2.
Oh. I don't think we need to talk about the spirituality of food.
Yeah, I got a pizza loaf. I'm gonna make a doo-doo, all right.
I mean, our body needs to release that which no longer serves us.
I think you're absolutely right. We should do a whole episode on that.
I'm gonna veto that one. What do you think, listeners? All right, let's wrap up. This is getting silly now.
There you go. Take us out.
All right. Thank you to all of you listening and watching with an open heart and with love at your forefront, and letting that lead you in your listening and in your responses. We do, of course, want to hear from you and hear your thoughts and read your thoughts. And when you compose those thoughts, let it be with love. And we are so excited for some upcoming episodes. So tune in, because it's going to get real loving around here real soon. We will talk to you again next week. Bye.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Please leave all comments on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page or beneath our videos on YouTube.